traditionally, perhaps you aren't aware of this, traditionally if you're Donald Trump, there's supposed to be a separation, a significant separation between the president and the FBI and other aspects of the DOJ. He obviously doesn't like that. He's been very clear throughout his term, but here he's making it very clear also with Laura Ingraham.
The saddest thing is that because I'm the president of the United States, I am not supposed to be involved with the Justice Department. I'm not supposed to be involved with the FBI. I'm not supposed to be doing the kind of things that I would love to be doing. And I'm very frustrated by it.
So look, if you just left it there, then it could be, okay, he wishes he could be doing that. He doesn't understand how the country's supposed to work, but fine. But then you get what he actually does. And so look at what we woke up to this morning. Some of this is yesterday, some of this is this morning. Tweeting, everybody is asking why the Justice Department and FBI isn't looking into all of the dishonesty going on with crooked Hillary and the Dems. When he says everybody, he means I am asking about that. So there he's putting pressure on the Justice Department and the FBI. He says people are angry. At some point, the Justice Department and the FBI must do what is right and proper. The American public deserves it.
I can't believe you spelled proper right.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a problem this next one too. So the next one, Pocahontas just stated that the Democrats, lead by the legendary crooked Hillary Clinton, rigged the primaries, capitalized. Let's go FBI and Justice Department. So it's important that, again, putting pressure on the FBI and the Justice Department, also using a racial slur against Elizabeth Warren. But don't worry, it's only literally National Native American History Month in America.
And he proclaimed it as such 3 days ago.
It's not, I mean, the soft racism of Donald Trump, just the effortless racism, you know?
Yeah. To be fair, he apologized earlier, actually on Fox News about that comment when he was making it during the campaign. He said, I feel that I'm not being fair to Pocahontas, so I apologize to Pocahontas.
That was nice of him.
Okay, literally.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she responded as well, saying, you might think your tweets are cute, real Donald Trump, but they won't stop Mueller's investigation or keep your people out of jail. And okay, so there is tweeting, which is significant, we'll return to it, but it could even go beyond that, because with Laura Ingraham, he was asked if he would fire Sessions, the Attorney General, if the DOJ doesn't free up agents, I wonder from what, to investigate the DNC. He said, I don't know. A lot of people are disappointed in the Justice Department, including me.
And they want to fire Jeff Sessions, but they can't fire Jeff Sessions. In large part because the idea, the notion that there'd be another confirmation hearing for another attorney general, and Rod Rosenstein would be the acting attorney general while Sessions was gone. That's probably worse for Trump. And it's unclear what kind of lackey AG could get approved right now. In fact, he probably with Trump, Flake, Corker, Collins, you probably can't get anybody. You can't get the candidate, the guy you'd want in there.
Yeah.
Knowing Trump,
or I'm sorry, or woman I'm just kidding, it'd be a guy.
It's knowing Trump, he might literally take his own personal lawyer and try to make him the attorney general.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So now, okay, let's break this down further. First of all, when Trump got into office, some conservatives were mad because he said that he actually didn't feel, quote, very strongly about prosecuting Hillary Clinton. He said, I don't want to hurt the Clintons, I really don't. She went through a lot and suffered greatly in many different ways. I remember Ann Coulter was livid about that. And so after the election, he was basically like, just kidding about the Clintons. That was just like politics. I don't actually want to prosecute them. I don't think they did anything wrong, right? So now, why is he bringing them back if he never wanted to prosecute them in the first place? Well, as a shield, obviously, and we did many stories on this throughout the week, but yesterday, Vanity Fair had a great piece about how Roger Stone, as brazen as he is, has admitted publicly, yeah, we want to investigate Hillary Clinton so that we could say Mueller was the head of the FBI at the time and use that as an excuse to fire Mueller.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of this is to protect Trump. It has nothing to do with Hillary Clinton. And we all already know that. And by the way, so does Laura Ingraham. But nonetheless, she not only doesn't ask him about that, she serves up the softball of like, aren't people at the Justice Department a problem?
Yeah.
Right? Do we have to replace some of the people at the Justice Department? So
I used to think she wasn't that bad.
Oh no,
on radio she was really bad.
She's terrible.
No, I was just wrong.
Yeah. So now, when he says, one part that I kind of disagree with you guys, I think John said it, when he says everybody's asking why the Justice Department, and you say no, only he's asking. No, what he means is I saw it on Fox and Friends.
Yeah.
Right. And if whatever I'm watching, my pea-sized brain thinks everybody's watching. But everybody's wondering
also,
why.
I mean, look, the country's huge. I mean, remember, I've used this point a lot, but I think it always bears repeating. Even if Trump had gotten the beating in November that he should have, right? he was still going to get Hillary, and Hillary beat him by 12 points, a landslide. Trump still would have gotten 50 million votes.
Yeah.
Right? 50 million Americans were going to, that's like a base, 48 million, even if he had ran the worst campaign ever. So, you go on Twitter, I follow a couple of people who retweet the Trump, I think they're real. But the stuff that gets said, like if you want to think that the country's with you, just look at the response today to Bo Bergdahl, right?
Yeah.
People naming that judge and want to go after that judge, so there it is. They're your people,
yeah.
right? So you can make a case that that's what people are talking about, that Hillary should be investigated.
Yeah, it is possible. But there's one other thing that I want to say. So obviously, there's a possibility that he could use this. We've been talking throughout this week about Jeff Sessions being caught apparently perjuring himself. That it might be in Trump's interest to take Sessions out, so he could theoretically, if he could get somebody, put someone in who could shut down Mueller and all of that. Which, wouldn't that be amazing that Sessions lying about contacts with Russians would be used as a pretext to bring someone in who could stop the Russian investigation? That would be amazing. But I don't think that we should gloss over these tweets and those comments too much. I mean, I think it's crazy how far we've moved as a country that we don't consider this theoretically worthy of impeachment. And I read on Twitter, I forget, I can't give them credit, but it was an interesting thought experiment. It was, what if we heard a taped conversation where he went and talked to the FBI and said, I want you to investigate Hillary and the Democrats? That's basically what took down Nixon. But here he has multiple tweets yelling at the FBI and the Justice Department to go after Hillary Clinton and the Democrats. And for some reason, that's totally fine.
Yeah, no, it's not totally fine. It's a number of different crimes. As you said, Nixon went down because he was going after his political opponents in Watergate. He broke into the Democratic office. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is, the more important part is obstruction of justice. Here he is saying, I would like to meddle with the Justice Department investigation into me. It's the definition of obstruction of justice.
I hope Mueller has a Twitter account.
I would like to fire people at the Justice Department who are investigating me. I mean, I think that Mueller's looking at it like
This is too on the nose. I can't even use this. I'm crazy.
Yeah, can I mean, it's gonna be weird when I arrest him because people are gonna be like, what? He just said it on Twitter.
Oh, that was a freebie.
Right? Yes, you can't say that I would like to stop an investigation of myself. There's a reason why the Justice Department is separated from the president, because they might have to investigate the president, because it's a democracy, it's not a dictatorship.
Yes.
He doesn't know or understand America. He doesn't care about the concept, he just wants to be a dictator, and this is clear violation of the law. You cannot do this, you can't obstruct an investigation of yourself by the Justice Department.
I would just like to say that the fact that he can't is the saddest thing.
That's literally what he said. It's the saddest thing that I can't do that.
That's right, there's a lot of sadness in the world, but that is the saddest.
Watch the Young Turks commercial free, download it or stream it, watch it any way you like at tytnetwork.com/join.